Welcome to Mallett and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallett. Hey, Steve, did you know that being abducted by aliens might just be the other vacation you need right now?
I need another vacation. Actually, I need a vacation from the vacation I just came back from yesterday.
Me too.
Yeah. And Michelle Lewis, hey, Michelle, did you know it's 2022 and the new term for breastfeeding is chest feeding because of all the lactating males out there?
Oh, are we going there?
Welcome back.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm mentally prepared to censor
Welcome
myself.
back, Michelle.
I'm never prepared to censor myself, but especially after the week I had, I don't know if I'm prepared.
Chest feeding. A couple weeks ago, we had Mary Jane Hetrick on she's one of the founders of Patriots Hall of Dripping Springs. They have one of their big fundraisers coming up, the Sporting Clays shoot for local Hayes and Travis County veterans. It's going to be Saturday, October 8th from 8 a.m. to 12:30 at Hog Heaven.
That sounds fun.
It does, doesn't it? If you're a veteran, you actually can shoot for free. And it's $100 to sponsor your own 4-person team, and they have corporate sponsors that you can sign up for. There's anywhere from 100 to 3,000 and up sponsors. So
you think I could do it closing my eyes like I did when we went to the gun range?
Yes, I know you could. Everybody duck. But that's their big fundraiser. So they've got we were talking to Mary Jane Hetrick. They've got big goals on how much money they want to raise. So if you could support them, even if you're not going to shoot, send them a check for $100 or $3,000.
Oh,
whatever.
$3,000.
Yeah. You can bring your own shotgun, ammunition, safety glasses, and hearing protection. Course of fire is 50 rounds. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like fun.
Mm.
So you're recovering?
Oh, I am recovering.
You're
currently.
Not recovered.
I'm not recovered.
No.
No.
You're still kind of a mess.
I am. I had surgery. It's a hard name to pronounce, called a oophorectomy.
Oh my God, that sounds terrible.
It's a oophorectomy.
Oof.
It's not something that I think women talk about these days as openly. I'm now in medicinal menopause. God help the rest of the office.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean it happens over the course of a year. It happens just automatically, but it's not something that I think women openly talk about. So I don't really know what this journey is going to take and how it's going to affect my body, or even if it does. But it's been a tough little recovery.
Yeah, it has.
Was. I think poor Todd had the worst of it when I came home and I was seeing alligators in
the living room.
Living room, yeah. And I was singing lyrics and God bless all of the friends that I was texting and
the girls' text from Dripping Springs Elite. Apparently, you said some things on there that people were like, "What is going on?" Actually, Melanie texted me and said,
"Go back and read them."
Is Michelle on drugs? Yes, she's absolutely on drugs.
They sent me home with morphine, but yeah, I definitely felt my age last week.
Well, we're glad you're back in the office, but please continue to take it easy. We know you push yourself too much.
I know. I don't know how to take it easy. It's hard. I don't know how to be lazy. It's really hard for me too.
Well, that's not a bad problem to have, though.
Not
a bad habit to have.
Although I did not walk 50 miles.
Wasn't 50, it was 44.
Okay, well, 44 miles.
Yeah, I did that Saturday. Holly and I went out to Mount Hood in Oregon in the middle of July.
That's your second trip.
Yeah. We were going to do it in July, and we got out there and there was still way too much snow. Mm-hmm. The east and north side of the mountain had 8 and 9 feet of snow in most places.
That was the first time you went.
The first time. And so a couple weeks ago, they had a big heat wave out there and melted all the snow. And so the trail was 100% open. So a couple weeks ago, we said, let's go back and try it again. So Saturday, we flew out there Friday night, got to the hotel just before midnight, got up at 3:30. So we slept for 3.5 hours.
Wow.
Got on the trail right before 5. So it was dark, did the first few miles in the dark, watched the sun come up, and then finished the whole 44 miles. Took us just under 19 hours because what a lot of people don't know, that actually sounds pretty slow, like if you're a trail runner, but there's 14 deep water crossings that you have to go over.
I saw some of your videos of Holly
Yeah. Well, and actually most of the videos I have are ones where it's pretty easy to get across, because the ones that are really sketchy, you want to watch what you're doing, but also what the other person's doing in case they fall in. And it can be a potentially life-saving event.
Did you see any bears?
We did not see any bears.
Did you see any snakes?
I don't think there's any snakes out there. It's too cold.
Oh.
But I twisted my ankle at mile 10.
I saw that. Oh.
Yeah. So I'm so stupid. For all the trail running friends out there, do not look at your phone map while you're running down the trail when there's rocks and stuff. First time I did it, just wanted to make sure we came to a little split in the trail, and I just wanted to make sure we were going the right way. So I was on All Trails, which is an app. I pulled my phone out of my pack and I fired it up and I looked at it and I stepped right on the corner of a rock and I went right down on all fours because, it hurt so bad.
Did you think you broke it?
At first I did. And then I realized, because I've done that a few times, and then I realized, no, I just twisted it. So it was strained and got going again. It loosened up a little bit. And a couple hours later, I took some ibuprofen and that really helped a lot. And then at I think mile 28, somewhere between 28 and 30, I'm running down this trail. Same thing. Want to make sure we were on the trail. Pull my phone out. Did it again. Went down on all fours. So
you didn't learn. You didn't learn
No,
the first
it was
time.
stupid. I'm definitely not going to do that
I kind of
again.
did the equivalent yesterday. I walked around IKEA.
You know what? That's about right. That's the worst walk on planet Earth.
I was like, this is totally stupid. I don't know if the IKEA store is kind of like walking like Sweden.
I think it probably is, yeah.
But I was somewhere in between the kitchen and the bath and I was done. I just wanted to be done.
And you can't
get out.
There's supposedly like shortcuts, but I don't think you really can.
But
I think you got to take the whole walk.
There's like so many people there too. You can't, and their carts are the worst. Have you ever their carts are like loosey goosey?
Well, and then everything you buy, you're like, oh, that's really cool. And then you get out into the warehouse part where you're supposed to get it. And it's like, oh, you need these 27 boxes. And here they are. It's maddening.
Well,
it's
actually,
it's like you spend 4 hours in the store and then you spend 2 hours in the puzzle factory where you got to put the puzzles together.
When I was checking out, they were like, are you part of our family and friends? And I was, purchasing things because you're doing a short-term rental and I wanted to get out. I wanted to walk around and I was like, well, what is that? And I said, well, you could save $50. Well, it spent 30 minutes trying to save $50 and I'm covered in sweat. And they're like, I'll just suspend your transaction. And I'm literally about in tears. And I said, I just had surgery Tuesday.
Just give me my $50.
$50. I got $50 too. So it was worth it.
I forgot. We're supposed to talk about our guest in the beginning.
That's right.
We have Elizabeth McGreevy coming on, who's an author and a land planner. She's coming on to talk to us about her book and all the work she's done. She's worked at the Ladybird Wildflower Center, the Domain, Balcones Canyonlands.
This should be interesting.
Yeah.
I know nothing about this.
I know. I set this one up without you.
Yeah.
It's normally your job.
I'm
because you were having surgery. You had some like lame thing going on where they were cutting parts of you out, or I don't know.
So sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry.
I've been talking a lot about Holly about my memory. I feel like my memory is not as good as it used to be. And her and I talked about it a lot on the plane when we were flying to Oregon. I actually don't think that's what's going on with my memory.
I think you have selective memory.
Well, there's that. I'm thinking that the way our society is these days, we have so much information thrown at us constantly. You remember that old saying when you were a kid? I remember this in school. Like your brain only has a certain amount of memory for names. So if say yours is 100 and 100 names and then you meet somebody new, well, somebody on the bottom falls off and you can't remember that person's name. And that number is different for everybody, right? Some people it's 300, some people it's 25.
Todd, it's 2.
See? Yeah. But my point is, I think it's the same for all kinds of information. Like how often do you see something on Facebook and something happened in somebody's life, but you can't remember what it was because you've seen so many events on Facebook recently that you can't pull it out of your memory bank because I don't think it's there anymore. It's like been pushed out by other info.
I learned this past week. I have I have lost the ability to read anymore.
You've lost it?
My neighbor brought me a bunch of magazines, and I used to love to just sit there and read magazines or books. And I get a lot of my information through videos now that's being told to me. And it was really, and maybe also I'm recovering from surgery and opiates and whatever else. But I was really having a hard time retaining information that I was reading versus information that I was getting someone showing me on a video.
You know, the difference, though, is when you see it on a video, it's curated to make you feel and think a certain thing. When you read, you select what you're going to read, and then you form your opinion based on the words on the page. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping people don't give up reading for stuff that's a video on
I love
social
reading.
media.
I just couldn't do it. I wasn't really good at comprehending what I was trying to read. Also, I was trying to read through the bias. Like on a video, I can swipe and go to the next video. I couldn't. I mean, I could turn the page, but it was the same magazine. What was the magazine I was reading? Oh, Real Simple. And it seemed like everything had a political bias to it.
Well, they all do now.
Yeah, and I just thought, I just want to know how to grow tomatoes, or something.
Yeah, we were watching the new Jurassic Park movie on the plane.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
Is it the Dominion? I think it's called the Dominion. And it's the same thing, like they throw these little lines in there every once in a while, like, if we don't act now, the planet will be destroyed. It's like, okay, I just want to be entertained for 2 hours. You don't need to like throw all your political crap at me.
Just throw a ball, just dance for me, just sing for me. Yeah. That's how I feel half the time. I'm getting so it's off-putting to me, all the entertainers. And I know that happens. Last night we rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a really cool movie. Yeah. But it's also a really sad movie to me, in the sense that, it's kind of an alternate ending of what happened to Sharon Tate and the Charles Manson murders. And
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's really cool. But when you look back to kind of like what old Hollywood was in the 50s and the 60s, and there was still crap that was going on, but what is the underbelly, the underbelly of what is going on right now in Hollywood, the child exploitation, the political bias. It's just not fun to watch anymore.
It's not. And you feel like you're being, I hate to keep using that word, overusing it, indoctrinated. It's like they forgot that they're there to entertain. Now they feel like they need to make you feel and think these certain things, which that's sad to me. But we watched another movie on the plane, and the same thing. There was these. They don't have anything to do with the movie. They're just like, you can tell they're just thrown in just to fit some narrative, and probably maybe for corporate money too. It's like, okay, we'll give you $5 million to produce that, but you got to put in this one clip for this special interest or that special interest. It's a weird time, but I did feel a little bit better about my memory once I've started to figure out if I got off social media.
It's them, not you.
It's them. It's them. It's not me, Michelle. I think if I got off social media and stopped and just started, because I read the Wall Street Journal?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, every morning. If I read the Wall Street Journal and then read some books, I have a pretty good long list. I don't read as much as I read every day, but it's mostly news articles. And then I got off social media. I bet my brain function would improve dramatically. I'd be able to remember a lot more stuff.
But yet here we are on a platform where we have people listening to us too. But
I mean, we're trying to give out information. We're trying to give out, I guess we are doing our own political bias.
I thought we were doing it just for people actually listen to us.
Believe it or not, Michelle, quite a few people listen to our show. No, actually, there's a lot of people. I think if you actually thought about how many people are listening to you right now, you might get a little bit nervous.
Do I strike you as someone that gets nervous?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Hey, let's take a little break and get Elizabeth in here and talk to her about her book.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com. And now here's Steve and Michelle.
All right, welcome back to the show. We're here with Elizabeth McGreevy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Steve. Good to see you after all these years.
Yeah, it has been a long time, huh?
Mm-hmm.
How long has it been?
About 11 years.
Has it been that long?
Uh-huh.
How did you meet Steve?
I don't remember how we met the first time.
I don't remember. Was it at karate or Methodist church?
It was probably the Methodist church. Yeah. Let's get that mic a little bit closer to you. Yeah, and then you were looking at a house, and I helped you with that for a little bit. And so you were already living in Dripping Springs back then, right?
I was living over on Canyon View Road.
Okay.
And then I moved into a little tiny log cabin.
Where was that?
Oh, it's on What Fits You and Crumley Ranch Road.
Oh, right there, that little log cabin right there.
Cabin.
It's still there.
I lived officially in a tiny house.
How big was it? Do you remember?
About 600 square feet.
You're kidding.
And I had my son, 2 dogs.
It was 600 square feet. Was that like one bedroom with a loft?
It was a tiny living room, a tiny kitchen, and 2 lofts.
How'd you like that?
It was actually fun. My son was he like in first grade? He loved it.
Is that right?
He felt like
First
Tarzan.
grade.
He would swing from the rafters.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I think I've been in that place.
And then you helped me find the one over on Pleasant Valley Road, which was much bigger. And
Yeah. Yeah. How long did you live there?
I lived there for about another 2 years, and then I decided to move back into South Austin. The environmental planning and landscape work that I was doing, it was difficult at that time to find a lot of work in Dripping Springs. And I talked to John Dromgold with the Natural Gardener, and he said, Elizabeth, you probably need to be in Austin right now. So I followed his advice and moved back to far South Austin, which is as close to Dripping Springs as I could be.
Yeah. Yeah. So go back to where you got started in this. Where'd you go to school, and how'd you get involved in our environmental planning?
Well, I went to college at Randolph-Macon College in Virginia and studied biology and ecology. And then I moved to Washington, D.C. And while I was there, I started working for a landscape architecture company. And I started to be aware of, wow, this is really cool. You know, I like doing this stuff. It's like doing outdoor exhibits. And I decided they all encouraged me. They said, you need to go get a master's degree in landscape architecture. You're really good at this. So I was looking at colleges, and my dad finally said, look, if you come back to Texas, I'll pay for your degree.
Can't beat that.
Did you grow up in Texas?
I did. I grew up in Houston. So native born and raised, 6th generation Texan.
Just give us the blue collar version of what landscape architecture is.
You know, a lot of people think it's just putting plants around, but that's landscape design, which is more just the aesthetics.
Right.
Landscape architecture looks more at the infrastructure, handling flooding, mitigation, and all that kind of stuff. You know, looking at ADA accessible things, subdivision layouts.
So so this would be like landscape design would be like how the front yard looks, and you're like how the subdivision performs as from an environmental standpoint.
Yes. I mean, like one of the projects I worked on was the upgrade of Fort Hood military housing.
Oh, wow.
And their trail system. So they had at the time 12 different neighborhoods that were all disconnected. So we established a trail system with parks and everything, developing parks for the families and creating a sense of identity and more ownership for them. And
that was at Fort Hood?
That was at Fort Hood.
And so you're a 6th generation Texan.
Yes. I found that out during the pandemic.
Did you? How'd you find out?
Well, I'm adopted.
Oh.
Did you know you were adopted?
Well, yes, I did know that. I've known that. And back when my son was born, my dad helped me find my birth mother just so I could get medical records. So, but during, with Ancestry.com, so I did that during the pandemic, and I got these results back, and my aunt, once removed, contacted me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so she said that, I want to tell you, we met and everything. She gave me all these documentation. She wants me to filed to become a daughter of the Republic. And
Wow. That's very cool.
Nice.
yeah.
And my dad's been on Ancestry.com trying to figure out where we come from. And he said that our past is colorful and not in many good ways.
I thought you were found under a rock.
Well, I was.
You're found right.
But apparently we have some bad characters in our past.
Now I'm interested. I'm gonna swab your cheek.
You're swab his cheek.
And then you wrote a book.
I did.
Tell us about that.
It wasn't, and then I wrote a book.
I was going to say, yeah.
You've been writing a book for 25 years.
Yeah, when I moved to Austin, I started working at the Wild Basin as a volunteer trail guide. And at the same time, I was working for a landscape architecture company in Austin. Mm-hmm. And I was doing a parking lot design. And in Austin, they require a buffer between, the road and the parking lot. And it was a big thicket of junipers. And I said, well, why don't we just keep this so we don't have to replant anything? And the guy said, no, you have to tear them out. They're not native. Replace them with Japanese ligustrum. I'm like, wait, what?
Is Japanese ligustrum not native?
Clearly not.
Yeah, hey, I don't know anything about landscape stuff, so I know that all the plants in my front yard are dead. That's all I know.
The word Japanese
is a dead giveaway.
Even as stoned
Okay, I get it. So that started your journey towards...
So that started my journey, and I went out to the Wild Basin. And I said, well, why are we keeping all these junipers? Because they're not native. And, I bought into the whole thing also. And Mike Casper, who was the director at the time, he took me aside and said, Elizabeth, these are native. You could tell he'd been frustrated because a lot of people tell him that. And he sent me to Brother Daniel Lynch with St. Edward's University, who then gave me all this research and everything showing me that, yes, they are native. So that when I found out that they are native, which is the opposite, and saw all the documentation, then I'm like, well, wait a minute. If that's not right, then what else isn't right? So sorry, my whole...
So you say junipers, you're just talking about the cedar trees that we find all over out here in the hill country.
Yeah, they're called cedars. In my book, I call them mountain cedars because... There's like 9 to 12, depending on how you classify them, junipers, cedars in Texas. Okay. And, there's eastern red cedar.
I didn't know that.
There's blueberry juniper, which is also mountain cedar. Okay. It gets really complicated. But when the settlers, when they came from the East Coast in the 1800s, they knew the eastern red cedar. So when they got here, they knew it was a different juniper, so they called it mountain cedar.
Oh, okay.
So I've the misconception or the conception of cedar trees is, number one, they take the water away from all of the other good trees per se, right? And I always heard when I first moved to Austin, gosh, what was that? 27 years ago. I was told there's an old wives' tale that some during World War I, World War II, I don't know, it's total BS story. Somebody in an airplane flew around the hill country, seeds.
No way.
Yes, I did. I swear.
Have you ever heard that story, Elizabeth?
In my book, I mentioned, I say it back, the story I was told is a black helicopter, not an airplane.
I wonder if there's any nugget of truth to that at all.
Yeah, first of all, why would they do that? And second of all, no, they've been here more than 10,000 years.
Oh, well, there you go.
There's fossilized pollen.
So is the first part of my story then true that these cedars are really?
No, it's a lot of it is based on the fact that we just see what's happening above the ground. Mm-hmm. We're not aware. We're not thinking about what's going below the ground. And recent research by Brad Wilcox at Texas A&M has shown that as these pioneering thickets, I mean, the mountain cedars will grow normally as trees inside of old growth forests and woodlands. And they're gorgeous. Their trunks can get up to 4 feet wide.
I've seen some big ones.
Yeah. But they were mostly cut down 150 years ago and were replaced. That and the good grasses were also replaced by these pioneering thickets of the bushy mountain cedars. And Brad Wilcox found that as they spread, after a certain number of years, they start to increase how much rain can get into the soil. So they're improving conditions. They're rewilding. They're regenerating the karst, but it takes time. And us, we don't live that long. compared to
Is that-
nature.
is that 'cause the
it takes
roots go-
decades. It can take decades.
Yeah. Is that because the roots go down and break up the limestone? And
It's that, but also because because the woody roots are stronger, they can get down in there. Not only are they physically breaking up the rock, but they're also excreting chemicals that help to erode and open up more holes and fractures in the limestone.
wow, that's interesting.
And it's happening underground, so we didn't know that was happening. And then in 1996, a researcher, Dr. Keith Owens, he produced a study, just casual estimate of one juniper and one live oak. That's the one that said that live oaks are using 33 gallons of water per day. Mountain cedars are using 33 gallons of water per day. The live oak, 19 gallons of water per day. But that, even in his paper at the beginning, he said, this is just an estimate. And it's only looking at one and one. He said we need to do them at different ages and whole stands. And since then, his research has continued. And he's like, well, okay, that was kind of a fluke. That is actually, when you look at entire stands, it's about the same water use.
I just sort of anecdotally, I know that when you have a live oak and it's surrounded by junipers or mountain oaks, I guess, or mountain cedars, I guess they are, and you cut all those away, that typically that oak does better. Why is that?
Well, just because of water competition. There is water competition.
There is,
now. If it also depends upon the age, if what you see coming up underneath the live oak are the really packed in thin ones with single trunks, I call that dog hair regrowth. That's not a pioneering thicket. That's a normal part. And it's normal because we keep clearing out underneath the trees, and nature will do this with any tree. Anywhere you see large trees, you will see this undergrowth trying to come back up because it's nature's way of protecting that larger tree from historical fires that used to occur. But
how is that? Explain that, how that works. So how does that protect the tree from fires?
It keeps the grass out. The grass is the most flammable thing that we have.
Oh, okay.
So it keeps out the grass. However, because we over clear so much under the live oaks, what comes back is more of a pioneering kind of dense growth.
Okay.
So what instead I tell people to do is thin out about 50%, keep most of them on the south and west side so it can shade the live oak's roots, but it decreases the competition there. But when you see an old growth, like an older,
That's okay.
When you see an older mountain cedar that is about the same size as that live oak, even if they're growing side by side, there will be no competition for water because at that age, the live oak by then has roots that are 50 to 60 feet deep. The mountain cedar has roots about 20 to 30 feet. So they're taking water from different levels. They also use water in different patterns and different ways. In other words, they have evolved to live together.
So the roots on the oak trees go down 50 to 60 feet, and the roots on the mountain cedar go down. How far did you say? 20 to 30 feet?
Yes.
That's crazy. I didn't know they went down that far.
Yeah.
So I know when we moved here, we cleared a big part of our land, and we had a guy come out. You're going to probably cringe, Elizabeth. Pushed over all our cedars with a bulldozer. And I know when he pushed those over, it just pulled out all these big rocks out onto the surface. It took us years to clear those rocks out. But you probably would have had a hard time with us getting rid of the trees in the first place and the method that we did it. So so somebody's got a piece of property and it's choked with cedars, just like cedars everywhere.
But some really good live oaks in there.
Yeah. What's the recommended way to take care of that or handle that?
Well, first of all, let's try to drop the word choke from the vocabulary because that's what we've been trained our eyes to see. Instead, we need to say, at what stage are these thickets at restoring the land, of restoring the soil and the karst? And you can go in there, you can measure the infiltration rate. If it's more than like 3 to 4 inches per hour, then you can start to selectively clear them out. A good way to do it is I wouldn't do more than 25% at a time. You can shred it in place. Never pull it out by the roots, though.
Why is that?
Oh, my God. I see a lot of contractors saying, we're going to get rid of the roots. When you pull out those roots, you immediately destroy all the work that they've done.
Oh.
And it goes back to zero. It's those roots, if you shred it, like you use the hydroax in place, you shred it in place, at least it keeps the roots in place so that organic matter will continue to decay, add to the deeper carbon. And so if you want carbon in the soil, because that is what feeds everything, that's kind of the basis of good soil is good carbon in that soil. And it maintains the integrity of the upper limestone bedrock that's called the epikarst. Mm-hmm. And when you pull that out, it just destroys everything, and it ruins it. And then it leaves you with a bunch of rocks to take away.
Does, tons of rocks.
So a better way is to either just cut it down or hydroax. You don't want to do that on any of the slopes, though. Anything more than...
Because of erosion?
Yeah. And if you do it on a slope, you only want to do it on contour, which means you're at the same height as you go along a hillside. That way, and then you can either pile up that shredded mulch into a low berm so that as the water comes down during a rain, it'll be stopped along there and then soak into the ground.
Oh, okay.
So it is beneficial. And that's okay in a pine area and thicket. I mean, you still don't want to do that to an old growth forest or woodland, but on areas, and that's especially true for areas that have shallow soils, but where you have deeper soils on more level and flat areas, then you can do more of the shredding, because historically those would lean more towards grassland.
Are there any laws in Texas regarding the removal of any of these cedars, like commercially or residential?
Well, you do have the golden cheek warbler, which is endangered, that relies on the old growth. So there's laws that you can't take, from endangered species.
What was that called again? The golden
cheek warbler. So golden cheek warblers are kind of like, are better viewed I think are better viewed as like the canary in the coal mine. As their numbers decrease, it shows that there's going to be a corresponding decrease in the health and extent of old growth woodlands and forests.
There's a weird thing that happens because ranchers know about golden cheek warblers, and they have a lot of this old growth habitat on some of their old ranches that haven't been disturbed.
Yeah.
So the ranchers are put in this weird position where there's these trees that are habitat, and if they find one of these birds on their property, it can greatly diminish the value of that property. So they almost are discouraged from supporting that habitat.
I know.
Right?
And it's kind of ironic, because the habitat that the warbler needs is what we would want. And so therefore I would think that finding warblers would increase a property's value, because then you're like, oh wow, you have old growth forests and woodlands that people do pay money for.
The problem is because typically the way the ranchers are going now, especially around the Austin area, they have 500 acres or whatever. Well, guess who wants to buy that?
Yeah, a developer.
A developer wants to buy that,
and every square inch of that is valuable.
And that's the way they look at it. Yeah, and I'm not advocating for that one way or the other. I'm just saying that's a fact. I've seen that before, where ranchers have these lands and they want to retire, and they know that that's their way to cash out, and they're like, I hope I don't find any of those birds on my property, and they probably do sometimes, and cut those trees down just so that the birds move on to other places. I actually knew a guy, this was a long time ago. He had a cave system on his ranch, and I don't know how deep it was, and he was getting to the point where he was going to sell this land, and he said, I'm going to have to go bulldoze over that cave, because if they find that and they find out that, we got to carve off 5 acres of that because of that cave, that diminishes how much money I have.
Oh, wow.
It's weird how sometimes the laws that are put in place to create a benefit for the habitat actually can harm it in the long run.
Yeah, but
not all the time.
I think things are actually, perspectives might be changing, because if you have that cave, it also means that that land can collect more rainwater.
Sure. And
that should be worth something. If you have that old growth forest, then that means that you're sequestering more carbon from the air, things like that. Funding is becoming available for things like that.
Yeah, if there were ways developers could incorporate that stuff into their development plans, which is probably where you come along, right, with the environmental planning.
Yeah, and I'm also working on starting up a new nonprofit called Roots and Karst.
I was just going to ask you about this.
Yeah,
the
and
nonprofit.
That's one of the things that I want to address. I want to be able to go to developers to teach them these things, to educate them about these kinds of approaches, of revaluing, finding how can they make, what are incentives that can be incorporated to get them to preserve those areas. Because, even ranchers, a lot of times they'll go, if they have like a karst feature, like a sinkhole, they'll fill it in because they don't want their livestock to fall into it.
Oh, well, yeah.
Instead of just building a little fence around it. And,
what is a karst? What is, you've used that word. I actually just realized I don't know exactly what it means.
I'm sorry. Yes. Karst is, in our area, we have the limestone. And when it weathers, remember I was talking about weathering and getting holes and stuff, that's karst.
Oh.
Now, a karst feature is something that kind of sticks out of the ground, like a rock outcropping, a sinkhole, something that you'll see on the surface.
Okay.
A karst land is just the whole area of the whole land.
And some of those features allow the aquifers to be recharged because they're entry points for water.
Yes, to have high volume recharge. The land itself does also accept that rain and helps. That's why where these pioneering thickets of the mountain cedars spread, as they're increasing how much water can soak into the ground, that's also decreasing erosion and downslope flooding. It also helps keep the plants more hydrated to decrease fire risk.
Oh, well, a lot of big benefits there.
Yeah.
So you're very plugged in to the cedar world.
Yeah.
Very plugged in. But I see that you have adventures outside of that too.
I do.
And you wrote, we send out a little questionnaire, kind of get to know you a little bit. And you say that the ones that you wrote down are PG rated. I want to know about your not PG rated ones.
No. Some of them happen in Dripping Springs. So.
Oh, boy. We definitely want to know about those, Elizabeth.
That's Mallett and Michelle After Dark.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, this is for children.
Yeah. Well,
So you're a swing dancer.
Yes.
And where do you go do that?
Yeah. In fact, I started while I was still living in Dripping Springs, and there was some friends here in Dripping Springs, and they dragged me off to the Broken Spoke. And it's funny because for years when I lived in Austin, on central Austin, I was right across from the Broken Spoke, and I'd drive by there all the time.
And you never went?
I never went because I didn't know anyone, and I didn't realize, actually, the way the dance community is that you could just show up by yourself. And there will always be people that you can.
I love the Broken Spoke, but I have one of the biggest complaints about it. And as much money as that little place pulls in, I want a freaking door on my.
Yeah.
On the bathroom?
No, that's why you only use the bathroom in the front.
There's shower curtains for doors.
No, they're Texas flags.
Well,
You're kidding.
Yeah, well, last time I went,
And your knees stick out.
Yes.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
you sit on the toilet and your knees stick out behind the curtain or the shower curtain or the flag or whatever the du jour it is.
I know.
It's sketch.
It is, but that's why us regulars, we know to go to the front bathroom
where the restaurant is.
Yeah,
where the doors are.
Well, last time I was there, that one was out of order.
But I've been going. So I started off just doing your regular two-stepping to Jesse Dayton, and he was my favorite on Thursday nights. He has since moved on. Now it's traveling around the world, but so I started learning more about Lindy and swing and rockabilly, which was really fun. So I mostly now go to like Jenny's and the Sagebrush, which is new. That opened during the pandemic and succeeded, and it's pretty amazing. Continental Club, places like that to do.
I like the Continental Club too. The dance floor is really, really tiny too, but that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, just don't wear a dress that blows up because of the fan that is situated in a certain way.
I'm surprised that place is still there the way Congress real estate has gone. Because right down from the Continental Club is
Home
Nike,
Slice.
Home Slice, but Lululemon. There's a Hermes store opening up, right down.
They're pop-ups. So those stores are pop-ups.
No, I think they're real stores.
Like the Lululemon was like a little pop-up one. Well, they they sign like little 6-month leases.
Yeah, they're
They
short
get-
term.
Yeah.
Yeah, short term.
Yeah, they,
Oh, I
they
know.
pop
Lucy
up.
in Disguise is closing though. And
I
that's
did.
heard
I
about
heard
a
that.
shame. I went in the other day, but it was like my last time to go in, and
I wonder what's going to go there.
I don't know. Someone said at one point Tacovas, but they have another
Yeah,
building.
they're
Yeah.
down the road.
I have
yeah.
a funny story about the Continental Club. You know who Taylor Swift is, Steve?
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard of her.
So I did an event with Taylor Swift, and her guitar player was first time in Austin, and we took him to the Continental Club and we taught him how to two-step. He had never, that was his first like Austin experience two-stepping at the Continental.
I tried to two-step once.
I know. Well, you can't even one-step.
I can't even one-step. That's true. I
Well,
figured
see,
that
that's
out.
what I thought. I used to not be a good dancer, but then I started to realize, oh, I do have rhythm. Okay, let's go with that. And once I started learning it, that's really fun.
Did you take lessons or did you just go?
I did take some lessons from this one guy who lives in Dripping Springs, and then some other people would teach me basic stuff, but it also is just practice.
But sometimes it is just showing up and dancing with whoever's there.
So what was your story at the Continental? And then I'll tell you my story.
I just taught him how to dance. I taught the guy from.
Do you want to hear
Taylor Swift.
Do you want to hear my Continental story?
Yes.
Oh yeah, is this PG?
Does this
rated?
go into the PG-13 column?
Yes.
All right,
Okay,
that's what we want.
So Big Sandy was playing from California, came in for the Hot Rod Show weekend, and the place was packed. I mean, you're talking about how does it survive? It's because they know how to put shows on, they know how to work it, and all that. It's constantly packed. And so Big Sandy was there. It was packed, and I was this guy named John, who's like, he's older, he's like 70, but he's a fun rockabilly dancer. He asked me to dance, and we went over in front of the stage. We're just, dancing, and some guy comes up, pushes John aside. He says, "Did you ask my girlfriend to dance?" And the guy was like, 25 or so.
Yeah.
And John said, I don't know. And he pointed her out, and he said, yes. He said, "You don't go asking my girlfriend to dance," and all this. And he got angry, and John kind of ignored him and tried to keep dancing with me. The guy pulls him back, and he hits him.
Oh my gosh.
And they started beating up on each other.
I hope John beat the crap out of him.
Well, no, he's like 70.
I don't care. In
I know.
that scenario, you want John to be like
I mean,
a former
because,
Navy
like,
SEAL.
I know.
No.
In like the dance community, it's like you ask my husband, you ask everybody to dance. Like everybody,
I know.
it's not. you're not hitting
This
them.
guy was from California. He didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah, well, there. Mhm.
Yeah, we'll leave it right there. Yeah, we talk a lot
But-
about California's moving.
But he kept beating on John until John was on the ground. And okay, I don't know if you remember, I took karate.
I do remember that. Yeah.
When I was here in Dripping Springs, I got my brown belt. And so I went up and got the guy's swinging arm and yanked it back and pinned it behind him. And I was in my little cute dress.
Wow. Wish we had some video of that.
Look
And
at that.
he but then he comes swinging around and he hit me in the jaw with his other hand. And finally, at that point, the onlooker people who were all tourists that were all frozen in fear, they finally meant that the girl was hit. Then they jumped on the guy. So 5 guys jumped on him. And they tried to drag him away, and then he grabbed John's hair, was trying to drag John out. So I went and pried his hands off, and then he suddenly bolted and
It sounds like
ran
one
away.
of the wrestling matches I went to.
I was just thinking that maybe all those tourists thought, hey, look, they're putting on a show for us.
I know.
Welcome to Texas.
I know, and the band never broke music.
See, that's what I was. Oh, look, it's a show. It's like the Wild Wild West
It's
out
like
here.
Saturday night at Mavericks in Utah.
What is that?
It's a dance. It's a dance hall there, and I swear every time we go, there's some fight that happens, but it's
Part
just
of the
you,
show.
Yeah, you just dance around them, and the bouncers come in and throw them out. You should go with us sometime.
Yeah, I
It's
probably
fun.
should. I just blend into the background.
You know what? The dancing doesn't really start till like 9, so there's not
No,
a
it's
nap
past my
corner.
bedtime.
There's not a nap corner.
There you go. There you go.
So what you were talking about this roots and karst that you got. What's in your future? What do you have planned for next for Elizabeth McGreevy?
Well, it will be the Roots and Karst is to establish this as a nonprofit, to take my 25 years of working with landowners throughout the hill country and getting that information just available to everyone so that they can use not just my information, but also all these people. Like when I went to the Dripping Springs Farmers Market, there's all these farmers and ranchers that are doing what's called regenerative farming, regenerative ranching. Willie Nelson has hired a bunch of guys who are doing this. That is how we're going to, we have to regenerate.
Tell us what that means. Yeah, what is that process?
Yeah, so you have restore. Restore is when you take a piece of furniture and you put some oil on it, so it looks like it did before. That's restoring. Regenerating is going further, is returning the reestablishing the ecological function, but also incorporating human uses into the process. So I'm not looking into regenerating a bunch of land and never letting people touch it. You know, I want it to also have uses with it. Now, one thing that would be a fascinating thing to figure out is over in Europe, they are using European bison they're shepherding them through the forests and the thickets to help create fire breaks and shaded fuel breaks to decrease fire risk. Is to do things like that, is to use, the livestock to move them through, so you find more uses for the livestock and things like that. But also, once I can get these better, more regenerative, sustainable strategies accepted by the state agencies, county agencies, then we can get the funding to the landowners to do these things. Right now, the funding that they get is just for clearing Mountain Cedars.
So I have a question. So you're a new Dripping Springs resident. You've bought in one of the multiple subdivisions that are here. So you have a third, even a quarter of an acre, barely, just a little postage stamp. What can that average right now? Because majority of the Dripping Springs residents aren't these multi-acre residences. They are living in subdivisions. What can we do? Abiding with our HOA and our deed restrictions, what can we do to make us better stewards of the land?
Little things. First of all, you can do more in your backyard, obviously, if you have an HOA. Like in my own backyard, I mow a certain areas closer to my house, but the back 2/3, I let it rewild. Now you have to kind of guide it as it goes along. It means having less lawn. And even where you do have lawn, don't crop it so short. Let it grow a little bit taller. And don't go mowing it during the summer. Keep it longer, because then that will make it more water efficient.
What are your feelings on xeriscaping?
Xera, which means just simply planting the right plant in the right place.
Okay.
So like an American beautyberry will be a xeriscape plant in a forest, but not out in the full sun. Meaning you don't have to give it supplemental irrigation. But there's also so much we can do for restoring the soils. Like I have a client in Northwest Hills here in Austin, has a bunch of that sandy loam and really, really degraded limestone. So my recommendation to them is to do what's called the lasagna technique. And so you find certain, you map out zones. You map out the zones where you want to have a lawn, where you want to have it used and all that. And then the others, no one ever uses every single inch of their space. Is in those areas you lay down different layers like non-shiny cardboard with straw and compost. You kind of layer up. And then you top it off with mulch and then you let it sit. And 6 months to a year, you come back, it's just wonderful soil. That's just like some of the things that can be done.
The cardboard breaks down?
No, it's weird. I did this. Okay, I did one semester, I did this outdoor education class for a homeschool group here in Dripping Springs. And the parking lot was just, your typical caliche. Yeah. I said, hey, kids, watch this. We got a piece of a non-shiny cardboard, stuck it in the middle of the parking lot, put rocks on it. I said, we'll come back in 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, we pull it up. There was earthworms under there, and the kids' eyes were like, no way.
Huh. It just broke down. It like composted, or?
Well, it's non-shiny cardboard is like sugar water for.
Oh,
Wow, that's interesting.
it's kind of like what you eat at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, much.
Yeah.
So they come in, and then of course once the earthworms are there, and then there are other little bugs and stuff like that. Is that they are nature's tillers? They till it for you.
I'm learning all kinds of
I
things.
know there's so much that we need to learn about being good stewards of the land. And
Exactly. And as long as the agencies are just promoting, clear your brush, that's not doing anything to regenerate or to work with the soil. And the soil, that's the new frontier.
Well, now we're in this drought right now, and so it's amazing. I told my husband just the little bit of rain that we just got over the last couple of days. It's amazing to me just to see how everything just greens up, and
I know all those little blades just popping up
true.
everywhere.
It just glows in the dark, and it's so beautiful. It's like nothing you can put down on that grass or your yard or your property
makes it seem like
is going to make
it like rainwater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so
Rainwater's organic water.
Yeah.
It doesn't have. Dripping Springs water is extremely alkaline, so that's a problem. But like Austin city water has lots of salts in it, and chlorine and fluoride, and it's just all that stuff's not good for the plants.
So I use Dripping Springs water on my yard, and I was irrigating it once a week, and it looked terrible. And then we got that 1.5 inches of rain, and now it is gorgeous green. Yeah. It's just, you could do 3 months of irrigating with that water, and it just barely stays alive. And then in 1 week, it can come right back with the rain.
When I moved from South Austin into Dripping Springs, I brought with me about 50 potted plants. And when I was in South Austin using city water, I had to water those. They were 1 to 2 gallons. I had to water them like every day. And then when I moved out to Dripping Springs, we already had rainwater collection system set up. And I realized, wow, I only had to water them once a week.
Because of the quality of the water.
Yeah.
I've been telling Todd we're getting our roof replaced, and they're going to replace our gutters too. And I said, I think we should capture some of that for our plants and things.
Well, the house I moved into, we captured 20,000. So we had 2 10,000 gallon tanks. So that was our sole source of water. And let me tell you, my hair has never felt better.
Yeah.
And then when I moved into that cabin, it just crispified.
Yeah. Was that on well water?
That was well water, 100% well water. The Dripping Springs water, if I remember correctly, is about half LCRA water.
It is,
so at least it's diluted.
Yeah. What's the biggest mistake people make when they're creating landscapes around their home?
Too much lawn. Scraping. Like when developers, this whole thing was scraping. Like I drove by the Nutty Brown just now.
The
when
HEB.
did that? That's going to be an HEB.
Yeah.
When did that become a thing to scrape everything? Because they scrape it down, they remove all the soil, all that epicarst I was talking about, all the broken little surface rocks. They scrape it down to just the bare.
Well, there's going to be a parking lot and an HEB there. So
Well, that's what they're doing. They're trying to get down to the rock.
I know, but that's what they should not be doing. Instead, it should be up higher. It should be pervious concrete, pavers, that kind of thing. We need a whole new way to develop. It's causing too much damage.
Yeah. The pervious concrete thing is interesting to me. So that allows, it's got little openings in it, allows water that hits it, rainwater to hit it, to go down into the soil. Is that right?
Yeah. To your original question, when you asked what's the worst thing that homeowners do, because I was thinking more in terms of what developers are doing, is when people put volcanoes around the trees.
Oh, okay. You mean the big, huge mulch piles?
Nothing gets me more. I mean, I will literally get out. If I see it in the parking lot, get out and start pulling it away.
And why is that? Why does that hurt the tree, or why does that harm it?
First of all, is that ever see that in nature? No.
No.
If you don't see it in nature, it's probably not going to be a good thing. Also, people put those little rings of rocks around each tree. No, it's
it can rot the tree.
It does.
Yeah.
It rots the base of the trunk, especially if it's an established tree. Now, if it's a tree you just planted, it can kind of adapt, but it's going to start developing roots up in that.
Oh,
it's just going to make a
little
weak tree.
Volcano thing.
Yeah, you want all the roots to be at the ground where it's more stable. And it's like people think that they're supposed to add mulch every year. No, you put mulch in the new plants, and then over time you just come in and add some compost. But as your leaves fall, people who rake up the leaves, leave them, like rake them up and then put them in the beds and use that instead of mulch because it's more aerated. So it lets the oxygen, but still kind of keeps the soil moisture in the soil.
Huh.
That's painful to me aesthetically.
Yeah, I know.
Well, if you, I've been doing it, and if it's just like live oak leaves, they make a nice even texture.
We have so many live oaks in our front yard that when it is leaf season,
Yeah, but the thing is, think about this. The tree drops the leaves fall on the ground. The whole purpose is so they can decompose, go back in the soil to give it nutrients to continue growing. If you take all those resources away, it's going to eventually
we mulch them up with the lawnmower.
Well, I mean, you can shred them up that way. It's just, and then people who when they mow, they think you're supposed to collect all the thatch and then send it away. But no, you leave it. That's all the
Since
lawn
we started
experts
doing
say
that, our yard looks very, very healthy.
Yeah.
Because Todd was bagging, but we were trying to get rid of a lot of
because
stuff.
the leaf clippings are nitrogen, full of nitrogen. That's what the lawn wants. But if you use a mower that will chop it up in smaller pieces, it'll kind of fall down in there.
Well, it seems to me like what a lot of people do, though, is when they mow their lawn, they cut it down really short.
Yeah,
and
that's not good.
Yeah, but that also, you're cutting off 3 inches of grass. So then when they're done, they have big piles of grass everywhere.
Yeah.
The cut grass.
But then you have the HOA Nazis that'll come over with the ruler and tell you your lawn is too.
Do they really?
No,
Oh, yeah.
They do not.
It's too long?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. How? See, okay, so then for my roots and cars, I will also go after these HOAs to try to get them to see the benefit of allowing. I don't know when in the world a short clip lawn that looks like AstroTurf became
They think it's supposed to look like a golf course, I guess. But I didn't know that.
Speaking of golf course, did you hear about the golf course over in Driftwood that they're supposed to be using that what's the word, refuse water with the reused from Onion Creek.
Reclaimed water.
Yeah,
Reclaimed
reclaimed water.
They found out that they're not able to keep up, so they're using water.
City water?
Uh-oh.
Ooh,
There's
a little bit of a scandal.
There's a little bit of scandal.
Do you know that in Europe or in Scotland and England, where the golf originated, they don't irrigate. They just let it go dry during the summer. It just goes dormant and makes a whole new game.
Well, they
your
probably don't
Yeah.
have
ball bounce is
109-degree summers.
Well, that's true.
Well, it's true there. But I think that there's something to be learned from that. That we don't have to we don't have to keep it a solid green all year.
Yeah.
It is. It's people get caught up in that and what the Joneses are doing, right? Well, my neighbor down the street, his yard is all beautiful and green. Mine's got to be beautiful and green, and then we're just like this.
Mine is beautiful and green.
Yours always
we are
is.
The Joneses.
Yes, everybody's trying to keep up with you, Michelle. Right. Well, Elizabeth, what's the name of your book and where can people find it?
My book is called Wanted: Mountain Cedars, Dead and Alive. And you can find it at Book People in Austin, which is one of the funnest bookstores to go into. You can also order it online at Native American Seed, which is seedsource.com. And you can also order it online through the Barnes & Noble site. And eventually it should be in the Barnes & Noble bookstores once more than 1,000 have been sold.
Yeah.
But I'm about at 800.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
We need to get a copy. You should send us a signed copy and we'll put it up here with our other books.
I got a copy in my purse.
Oh, well, there you go. She's got us taken care of. Oh.
Yeah, I figure I'd donate one.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. We really enjoyed this. You have a wealth of knowledge here about, and I'm sure, can people reach out to you if they have questions about things?
Right now, just Land Steward, all one word, at gmail.com.
Landsteward@gmail.com.
You can just enter Elizabeth McGreevy.
Okay.
Usually that pulls me out.
McGreevy.
Correct.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for inviting me, and this was really fun getting to know you, Michelle, and seeing you again.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Thanks for coming on.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com.
Thanks for listening.
If you have comments or feedback, please email us at mallettandmichelle@gmail.com.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mallett and Michelle.
Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher.
Please follow us and leave a review.
Thanks again for listening.